Hello and welcome back to the Dugout. I'm your host, Alexander Cruikshanks, and today me and my two co-hosts are going to be diving into the European action. Obviously, Celtic's devastating Dortmund defeat last night. Rangers and Hearts both playing in their two respective competitions, the Conference League and the Europa League. Looking forward to that. Rangers taking on Lyon, Hearts taking on the Belarusian champions Dinamo Minsk. But before we get into that, I'm joined by Laurie and Ethan. Laurie, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, good to be back. Having missed the last couple of episodes, unfortunately, but it's good to actually be back talking about Scottish football again. Maybe not Scottish football in the most positive light, but perhaps Rangers and Hearts can help us all in that regard. Time will very much tell.
Yeah, Ethan, Laurie sort of alluded to it there. I mentioned it in the intro. How are you feeling after last night?
Um, Probably like a lot of Celtic fans, a bit shell shocked at the result. Like many seen this coming. Even yourself on the prediction for a draw, Celtic could get a draw away,
Yeah,
but it was nothing like that. I'm sure we'll dissect that. But yeah, we've got two other games to look forward to, and hopefully the Scotland flag can be flew a bit better over the next two games. And
yeah,
yeah,
definitely. We'll just jump into it. Celtic went to Dortmund last night with high hopes. Ethan said there, even myself, I thought they'd get a draw. Didn't go that way at all. Dortmund take the lead early on through a penalty. Emre Can, Kasper Schmeichel bringing him down. Not him down, bringing was it Gittins? Bring Gittins
yeah,
down,
Jimmy Gittins, yeah.
Yeah,
run,
that's
run it,
engine.
running in on goal, and it was a penalty to Dortmund. First of all, just on the decision, I think it was a Stonewall penalty.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Yeah,
I mean, of
and
course, there was a little bit of conversation, amongst the guys covering the game for TV, which we had last night, at least here in the UK. It was Rory Hamilton and Neil Lennon, and they were saying that under old IFAB rules, Kasper Schmeichel would have been sent off, but it was some sort of rule relaxation, probably the usual about goalkeepers being a protected species. But if anything, that's the one positive that went in Celtic's way, that they managed to keep Schmeichel on the pitch. Because in fairness, and I'm not trying to give out man of the matches here. I know we did it a little bit in our group chat, and we were kind of saying, is there any Celtic player who's done relatively decent? Kasper Schmeichel, believe it or not, kept the score down. He was bad, but he kept the score down a bit. And what makes it
yeah,
worse is his dad was in attendance, and it looked to me like when the camera cut to him that his dad might have been commentating. I don't know, but I'm almost certain he was mic'd up.
I think he was there with the CBS crew for the game. But yeah, it was the start of a long night for old Casper, wasn't it? It wasn't the worst thing to happen to him, but Chan dispatches a penalty. But a matter of moments later, the Celtic fans in the Dortmund end are dreaming because Dyson Maeda equalises, and Ethan. At that point, what were you feeling?
Um, at that point, I'm thinking this game's how many expected it to go end to end. No sort of defensive solidity from either team. Both teams going gun ho end to end, and then it just turned very, very, very one sided. And it was only a one team contest after that.
Yeah, Dortmund hit back quickly. I think it was three goals. Those three goals came in 10 minutes. That for the score to be 2-1. Adeyemi opened his account for the evening. It wasn't a last for him. Um, and from then on in, it was just domination from Dortmund. Adeyemi scored a couple of beautiful goals, for his hat trick. Garassi getting a goal, and also he got his penalty to make it his brace. He was highly hyped going into the game. I think you told me, Ethan, he scored 34 goals in his previous 34 games, and now it's 36 and 35 for him. So, and it was Felix and Mesha with the seventh, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so not not a fun night for Celtic fans, not a fun night for Scottish football's reputation at all. It's taken a battering over the past couple of years with heavy defeats like that. Rangers comes to mind against Liverpool, another 7-1. But it was kind of like a shock. I think Ethan said a bit of a shock to the system because everyone thought Celtic would go in there compete. I saw a lot of Dortmund fans saying they thought Celtic would go and compete and they just didn't. And I think that was down to maybe the sort of I thought was ludicrous style of play, Laurie, that Brendan Rodgers went in with.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's down to, as you say, kind of ludicrous style of play, very much, naive tactically for some reason, which is strange because Brendan Rodgers isn't a guy you would associate with all the experience that he has with being, so naive tactically. Maybe with Celtic in the Champions League in the past though, because this is the third time I believe, and Ethan, you can correct me, that Brendan Rodgers' Celtic team have conceded 7 in the Champions League.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I mean, I don't understand why Celtic think that they can play the same way as they do against the likes of St Johnstone or whatever away to Borussia Dortmund. I mean, Celtic, of course, do have a golfing quality between themselves and the team towards, or what they've been going towards the upper echelons of Bundesliga. But the thing is, they need to, they need to kind of temper expectations a bit. They probably, if they were to be a bit more defensively solid, could at least have kept it respectable in Dortmund. But Brendan Rodgers is so kind of steadfast in his belief of, you know, the high pressing and kind of gung ho to use his replacement at Liverpool's expression. He's so used to the kind of almost heavy metal-ish football. You know, why not just let that go a little bit when you're in Europe? Respect the opposition a bit more. Don't just go into it thinking that you know that's somehow going to work in one of the biggest stages in European football. It makes no sense to me. I mean, Ethan, you can probably go into that more than me, but it makes really no sense at all.
yeah. I think the pressing's obviously become a massive thing in football, and it's how Celtic play, and it's how Celtic have played for the whole of the season, and it's why Celtic have been so domestically dominant. They obviously got that big win against Bratislava in the first game, but that's a whole different animal that Celtic were playing against, where if your press is a player's 5 yards or behind the press in Celtic, they'll just pass the ball around you and they'll make you look silly, and they did. Um, they broke the press so easily almost every time. Though I can't remember even one time that the Dortmund defence kind of gave the ball away to Celtic. Um, and at that point, especially when you get to like 3-1 down, you've got to kind of be tactically and just sound and just say Brendan Rodgers and maybe Cal McGregor and some other players just need to say, right, we'll sit back and suffer for a bit, then maybe go again in the second half. But they just kept throwing bodies forward. Kyogo, Nicholas Kuhn, Maeda, the midfield weren't with them. They just bypassed it every time. No one get near to Julian Brandt the whole game. He had the game on strings, and Dortmund just annihilated Celtic, and it was frustrating to watch. Even when Celtic got the ball, they were really poor in possession. I don't
Yeah,
think many players could say they got pass marks. I thought Liam Scales had a decent game. I thought he was put in some difficult scenarios and bailed a few players out, but he'd obviously get turned inside out for the sixth goal, the Garassi second, and thought Kasper Schmeichel made some good saves. And the same with Dyson Maeda as well. He was positive, but then he was at fault for two of the goals. I would say two of Adeyemi's strikes. He should have done better.
yeah. You mentioned there about the midfield. I think it was the first time in a long time that I've seen that the Celtic midfield just look completely anonymous and like passengers. That's not something you could say about them. Cal McGregor, I don't. This is like so weird to say. I forgot he was playing. I think until I saw him, just in a tackle maybe or on the ball or something like, and I was like, oh, it, it's not something you've become accustomed to watching the Celtic side, but it was just an absolute gulf.
And that's not
Yeah,
just you that forgot about McGregor, by the way, Alex. I mean, Callum McGregor's always someone before he can make this point that even if Celtic are doing badly in a game in Europe or whatever, he's someone who always is trying to set the benchmark and plays, relatively decent. But as you say, he was totally anonymous last night.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think a few players just looked out their depth for that kind of playing against that kind of try to go toe to toe with that kind of level of opposition. But Greg Taylor was really poor. He gave the ball away a few times. McGregor, especially, was really poor. Engels, just the stage got to him. He's looked so comfortable in a Celtic shirt, but he just didn't really get in the game at all. Paulo Bernardo didn't get in the game at all. The wingers and Kyogo never get in the game, especially when you would have seen watching it how far Dortmund pushed their fullbacks forward. I mean, Jan Kuto, the right back, was almost playing as a right winger for most of the game, and you're thinking get the ball in behind him and test the defence with Maida's pace, and Celtic just never done it. They never got their heads up, try to play short passes in the dangerous areas, and Dortmund just dominated from minute 10 to minute 90.
yeah, but it's not. Although it's a crushing defeat, I think this new format, it's not the end of the world. Celtic picked up a big win, so their goal difference is only -2. And they've got 3 points, which isn't disastrous after 2 match days. So, there are games that I think are in there that they could win. But, they've still got games coming up against the likes of Aston Villa. And, I think Rodgers needs to revise his tactics if they're to hopefully avoid another crushing defeat. I think we'll just move on from that, spare Ethan any more pain. Um, and we'll go on to Hearts, who actually travelled to Belarus to take on the Belarusian champions Dynamo Minsk in the first game.
Sorry to correct you there, Alex. They're not
I was going
absolutely.
to say,
They're not playing in Belarus. They're playing in Azerbaijan.
Oh, are they? Oh,
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
sorry. They travelled to Azerbaijan to take on the Belarusian champions Dynamo Minsk in their first game of the Europa Conference League. Hearts, of course, winless all season. And what a way it would be, Laurie, for them to pick up their first win away from home in Europe.
Yeah, that would be exactly what the Hearts fans are looking for. They're traveling to Azerbaijan, of course, but I think it's possible that that might happen because sometimes teams need that kind of distraction from their league form. I mean, you see it all the time where teams forms take in the league take the real downturn because they're distracted by Europe. And I'm not saying that's what's happened with Hearts, right? But I'm just saying they might end up playing really well in Europe, and then you wonder why on earth can't they do that in the league? A bit like Aberdeen last season at times, as much as they didn't get the results they were after. Of course, for Hearts at the weekend, there were some minor positives for Liam Fox to build on, but it's a strange one. I remember the Hearts CEO was saying basically the main reason for Liam Fox being given the interim gig was because he had his UEFA Pro license, so he could manage in European games. You'll
That's
probably
not a great
remember,
sign, is it?
no, but you'll probably remember obviously Stephen Naismith initially didn't have that, and that's why they had the weird co-manager setup with Naismith and McAvoy. Although the two of them look so alike, you could probably get away with having the other in the dugout, but for Hearts, it's going to be a tough one because Dynamo Minsk are a team who maybe, as Scottish football fans, we don't know too much about, but are still a team with, they're still one of those names you recognise with Europa League or Conference League competition, of course, the conference in this case. So they're probably a team with a bit more European know-how on paper than Hearts, and chances are they're coming into it with a little bit more confidence than the Jambos are at this moment in time.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I'd agree with that. They're currently second in their division, the Premier Division. However, they've got 3 games in hand on Neman Gradano, and they're just 3 points behind them. But yeah, Ethan having a wee chuckle there at my pronunciations. Is that what it
yeah,
is?
yeah. Yeah, that's what I was laughing at there.
Grodno, I think. I've missed Grodno.
I think that's right, but I'm not too sure.
Neumann Grodno. There we go.
That sounds right.
But aye, they're only 3 points behind. They obviously won the league last season, and they'll be like Laurie said, they'll be a side full of confidence. Ethan, if I'm correct in saying you've done a bit of research on them and into their lineup, and
Yeah. I mean, for the viewers, there's not much I'm going to tell you here that you really recognize or any players. A lot of Belarusian players, a few Belarus internationals. I think the goalkeeper's Lapukov, the back four of Rai, Beganov, Gavrilovic, and Pigas. And then to the midfield to an attack, Selyava, Demchok, I don't know how to say that name, Demchenko, Amian, Bakar, Alfred, and Podstrilov. I think they've got three current Belarusian internationals in their team. So this is definitely a team Hearts can probably target to get some points. It's possibly a bit like Malmo and Slovan Bratislava. Of course, they've all won their leagues, but we don't really know how much or the quality of the league and how good the team in question actually is until we'll see them on Thursday night. But as Laurie said, Liam Fox and Hearts can take positives from their performance at the weekend. They created a lot of chances, and they probably definitely should have won that game. Um, and
yeah,
yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they can get on. I think it's an
yeah.
empty stadium as well, which will be
Oh,
a bit strange.
Yeah, yep, it is. You're right.
right. A big positive for Hearts, I'd say, although it took them a while. Shanklin's up and running again, so they'll be resting their hopes on him that hopefully he can bury a couple of chances that he maybe should have scored at the weekend there. Yeah, but there are positive signs for Hearts, and it should be interesting. Like Ethan said, even though he's done his research, it's difficult to tell. Like coming up against these sides, there's not a lot out there on them. They're in a division that isn't particularly well covered, especially in like the West and UK, that sort of thing. So, yeah, it should be an interesting watch. I myself won't catch all of it. I'll probably see the first half before I need to leave to travel over to Ibrox as Rangers take on Leon. What do you make of that segue? But yeah, Rangers take on Leon in the second game of the Europa League. I nearly said group stage league phase. Rangers obviously triumphed 2-0 last week. We covered that bit in the podcast episode on Monday there. Um, and yeah, personally, I'm I'm cautiously optimistic going into this one, Laurie.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, you're within your right to be quite cautiously optimistic because Rangers seem to have maybe they're not playing brilliant at the moment, but they're getting results and looking fairly solid. Of course, domestically, I've got a fair bit of catching up to do on on Celtic, but then who knows how scarred they will be after what they've went through in this midweek. I mean. Leon is only one of, Rangers' big ties in the league phase. You've got plenty of them coming up. But the thing is, it's at home. You've got a full Ibrox behind you. I mean, off the first European game at Ibrox since the renovations were done. Does that mean Ibrox is a little bit bigger as well? I could be wrong. You think you got a
I
weak
don't think
fan
it's that much bigger, but it is a little bit bigger.
But I imagine sold out on a European night, and I feel like Lyon's one of these teams that if Rangers were to get rid of against them, it feels like a bit of an upset, but it feels like one of those ones that's kind of possible. Like, I mean, just look at what Rangers did on the road to the Bell a few years ago. Of course, it ended in disappointment, but you know, beating the likes of Celtic opposition who the other side of Glasgow couldn't quite get the better of, and amongst others, like. Special things can happen at European nights at Ibrox, and I'm sure Alex for yourself it'll be a memorable night, I would think.
Yeah, definitely. the atmosphere will be electric. It's just guaranteed. Rangers and Ibrox in the European nights, no matter who they're up against, it's going to be top tier. You know, I'm looking forward to it. Although they haven't been the best this season, Leon, on paper, it's a scary, scary side to look at. You've got Mikatausi, the Georgian striker, obviously played very well in the Euros. Side Ben Rama, Wilfred Zaha, of course, is at Leon,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
who'll be directly up against James Tavernier, which gives me the fear. um, but Ethan, how do you think Leon will line up going into this one?
Yeah, I'm not sure. They've kind of, by the looks of it, they don't really have a set formation since the start of this season. They've been under their manager Pierre Sage or Sage, I think it is, for about a year. But looking at their kind of setups across their games this season, they've fluctuated between a kind of 4-3-3 and a 3-5-2. But I think based off how they played against Olympiacos and their 2-0 win last week, I think they'll go for a 4-3-3. I think it'll be Lucas Perry in goals, a back four of Tagliafico, of course, World Cup winner with Argentina, Saleta Sarr, former Southampton
I think
central
it's
defender.
awkward. I think it's Saleta Char or something like
Yeah,
it's not the same, or it's Chaleta Sar, or it's
yeah,
I,
something like
I,
that.
I think you were right the first time, Alex, but it's one of these awkward ones when you say his name, you don't remember.
Yeah. Um, Clinton Mata, who they got from Bruges a couple of seasons ago, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, of course, formerly of Arsenal.
he's
And
been
then in the
playing quite
midfield,
well this season, hasn't he, Maitland Niles? He's after
yep,
he's it was a bit of a saga for him to leave Arsenal, and then he wasn't great at Roma, but I think he's finally finding his feet at Leon.
yeah. I think he's kind of fluctuated between a right wing back and right back this season. Um, that's why they've got so much selection headache. They've got so much kind of quality and a deep squad. That could really be anyone that starts. But I think Maitland Niles is a kind of lock to start. And then in the midfield, they've got a very experienced midfield mixed with a bit of youth. They've got Nemanja Matic, obviously a lot of experience, former Man United and Chelsea. They've got another World Cup winner, Corentin Tolisso, obviously a legend at Lyon. And then Ryan Cherky, the 21-year-old who is who gets a lot of plaudits. He's only 21 and he played pretty well for France at the Olympics. But he's had a slow start to the season since coming back from the Olympics. And then their front three, it could really be anyone. I think Lacazette will start. He's obviously a proven goal scorer. And he'll be one to watch for Rangers. But on the wings, it really could be a whole host of names. They've got Ben Rama, Zaha, Mikatadze, Fofana, a Belgian under 21. It might even be Belgian first team international now. And they've got Gift Orban, who's a up and coming young striker as well. So they've got a lot of talent throughout that squad. But Rangers will surely make it difficult for them at home and a full stadium, Ibrox,
Yeah,
and a difficult game for Leon, but it'll be also be a difficult game for Rangers.
yeah, definitely. Very stacked in the attacking areas there. It looks like for Leon, but obviously Rangers have a bit of history with them. They played in the Europa League against them a couple of years ago. Famous Champions League victory over them as well, 3-0. A great result at the time. I think in the Europa League, Rangers lost 2-0 at Ibrox and then drew one each with them away from home. And you mentioned there Ryan Cherky. I remember him from that time, and you know, he's been highly touted for a while, and he's been a bit of a slow bloomer, but you can see the quality, and even at that time, you could see the quality he has, and it's a it's quite an intimidating thing to look at. you could say. However, I've got confidence in Rangers, in terms of their lineup. I There could be something there maybe that people aren't expecting, but I'll just go from the goalkeeper and I'll get to it when I get to it. So Jack Butland obviously will be between the sticks. Left back will probably be Jefty, I'll say, despite Casanvero's great performance against Malmo. Centre backs will be Suter and Proper. Right back could be Tavernier or Casanvero, in my opinion, because in the midfield, I think it'll be Barron, Diamande, Lawrence, or James Tavernier. That's kind of my weird shout, because at the weekend, I don't know if it was maybe just for energy conservation or something, but or I'm reading into it too much. But Clement subbed Tom Lawrence for Casa and Vero, and he put Tavernier into the midfield. Maybe it's a sign. I don't know. Maybe he's trying to move Tav into that midfield. But I guess we'll see. I think it was far more likely Tavernier's at right back and Lawrence starts, but you never know. And I think the front line will be Cyril Dessers, Berami off the left. And I don't know about the right hand side because Vaslav Cherny had a bit of a Stramash at the weekend kind of thing. You know, he's showing his frustrations to the Rangers supporters. Laurie, do you think it's a case of he's struggling with the pressure, or do you think his attitude's just gone already?
I mean, I would like to think it's the first one. I would like to hope it maybe, if anything, just struggling with the pressure. Although, Lachlan Kearney is a guy um, who obviously had, a lot of expectations, of him, particularly like 5 or 6 years ago, and now he's maybe struggled to live up to that potential. So maybe he's starting to realise if it's not really working at the Rangers, then it's a case of we are next. Not without trying to sound too negative or pessimistic, although of course it is early days, and I know obviously we have seen some good things from Cherny
Yeah,
as
there's
well.
definitely quality there, but the recent games, I think he's been overly predictable, cutting in, and people are just latching onto that. He's not really been impacting the game. He's not
Yeah.
really been helping out defensively. Rangers fans were sort of getting on his back at the game on Sunday, and that caused them to sort of lash out at them. And then Clement subbed them off. So
Yep. And one other thing in Rangers favour, I mean, Alex, did you not mention the other day that Cyril Dessers is a pretty good goal scoring record in Europe, not for Rangers necessarily, but for when he was playing in the Eredivisie. Is he not a really good
yeah,
European goal?
he's the second all time top scorer in the Conference League. I know it's only been about for 5 seasons or so, 4 or 5 seasons, but he's actually in that season with Feyenoord, I think he grabbed 10 goals when they got to the finals. So that's a really good sort of European record from him. Hopefully, he can replicate that. I'd take that in a heartbeat from the Nigerian. But yeah, he's interesting. I think I say this every week. He, he's really good at a lot of things, just not finishing. Not, you kind of need your striker to be good at finishing. But yeah, just back to that right hand side. I think Cherny will possibly start. However, I'd probably like to just see Ross McCausland given a go. He's been playing well coming off the bench, and I think he could impact it.
Yeah.
Also, there's been some sort of major news coming out of Rangers. Dujon Sterling had his contract extended until 2028. Great utility player for Rangers. Ridvan Yilmaz was seen back in training. And one man who's rejoined the first team squad for training after a bit of a saga is Yanis Hadji. Ethan, do you think this could be a boost for Rangers this season? Because he's clearly a quality player.
Yeah, I think it's almost like he's shown bits of quality in most places he's went. That's not Ibrox, and it's never really fully clicked for him at Ibrox. He scored some brilliant goals for his national team, Romania, and there's definitely a player in there. Whether Clement can get that out of him, we'll see. Obviously, he placed doubts in him at the start of the season, is why he wasn't in the squads. But he's obviously found his way back into the setup, and it'll just be about getting his head down and getting back into Clement's plans of a starting 11.
Yeah, the impression that I got was Clement didn't really have any sort of malice towards him. He didn't think he was a bad or good player. He didn't really have an opinion on him. It was just his contract situation. I think it was a situation where if he played another game, his wages would go up. And, that was a clause in his original contract. And maybe that's why he was loaned out last season as well. And I think maybe he sorted that out with the club, and that's allowed him to return to the first team squad. But I think I really like Yanis Hadji. However, he's not young anymore. He's like 25. So I think if this season doesn't go well for him, if he's in the setup and and he gets games and he doesn't play well, I think that's maybe time for him to move on.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I was gonna pose the question to you about McCausland starting over Czerny, but obviously you said that you think he deserves the start. One player who you are missing is a certain Brest player who got a double last night. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, Seema.
Yeah,
Abdallah Seema.
I think you could have done with signing him. I know it wouldn't have been an easy deal,
I
but I
don't.
think he would have been a
I
great
think
signing for us.
I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I think Brest paid like 8 million for him, so we wouldn't have been
Yeah.
able to afford that.
You wouldn't be able to afford that. And just quickly on the Yanis Hadji thing, and Alex, you can correct me on this if I'm wrong. He's not eligible for European matches, so he's obviously someone to help out with the kind of Thursday, Sunday kind of fixture pile up.
Yeah, I think that's the case of he's not eligible for European matches because he wasn't like part of the squad when the European squad was selected. So yeah, definitely it will be League and Cup for him, but it doesn't mean he can't make a big impact. And I'm looking forward to seeing him back on the pitch for Rangers. I think we'll just end it there quickly. We'll run through our predictions for both games. Dynamo Minsk, sorry, versus Hearts. Laurie, what you saying?
I'm saying 1-0 Hearts.
Ethan?
Yeah, I'm gonna give a bit of confidence to Hearts. I think Liam Fox, he's kind of selected his players, which he has his favourites already. He's made a difference, and I'm going to say 1-0 Hearts as well. Lawrence Shanklin with the goal.
All right, brilliant. I'm going to say 2-1 to Hearts. And for Rangers versus Lyon, Laurie?
Okay, I'll go for a one each draw, Ibrox.
Yep. Ethan?
I'm going to go. What am I going to go? I'm going to go one each as well. I know it seems like I'm copying Laurie, but I think it'll be a tight game, and I think there'll not be much between the teams.
I'm going to go with the old trusty 2-1 to Rangers. Cyril Desser's double starting that campaign. But yeah, thank you to everyone for watching and listening to our sort of European roundup. Go check out our Twitter at the Dugout 2024. Thank you and goodbye.